world, this is Dominic Syracuse. Welcome to another episode of the DOMUNIST Manifesto. And guess what happened? I went skydiving. Here's the thing. I recently turned 30. I know. I look like a 12-year-old lesbian girl. But actually, I was born in 1988, and for my 30th birthday, I wanted to do something special. So, what I decided to do was I decided to take all those experiences in my 20s, all of the irresponsible things, all of the dangerous things, all those times that I did something absolutely foolish and ridiculous, and throw it all away. And this time, start anew with a really good decision. So I jumped out of a plane. Here's the deal. I'm an idealist, okay? So when it comes to thinking about something, I'm like, oh, that fits my personality so well. I'm exciting, I'm fun, I'm high energy. That was until I actually had to do it, and then I was like, why the f am I doing this? And I've done this kind of thing before. I always think, you know what'd be sweet? Bungee jumping. And so I went bungee jumping. It was not sweet. This is a picture of my face. I think I like the idea of skydiving more than I like actually going skydiving. And on top of all that, I bought my ticket to do this on Groupon. Most people do whatever they can to avoid sheer life-threatening danger. I got mine on discount. So we arrive to the airport where we're going to do all of this, and we find a door, like a single door that just has a printout of the words skydiving. Not even a printout of ink. I mean, somebody took a Sharpie and wrote the words skydiving here with an arrow pointing to the doorknob. And I thought, this seems legit. So I go inside of this place and my heart is bumping so fast. I am doing whatever I can to nurse an anxiety attack. And I walk up to the guy who we get our tickets from and I say, hey, listen, I know we have to go with an instructor because it's our first time and everything, and I have a life I'd like to live. So do you have anybody that maybe has, you know, a child or like, a mortgage or even bought a concert ticket recently? Somebody with something to live for, you know? And he looked at me right in the eyes and he went, you're not gonna find anybody like that here. I was like, ha ha, great! He said, oh, that's your guy. And I turn around to see this 6-foot, tattooed, bearded guy named Bill. When I saw Bill, he was smoking a cigarette, and I noticed that he had tattoos coming up his fingers of skeleton fingers, which went really well with the face mask he put on, which was a skeleton face, and then a bandana that said the words, live to die. And I thought, I'm totally safe. So I go up to him, I say, hey Bill, good to meet you. Listen, it's my first time, okay? And he said, don't worry. I'll be gentle. I said, thank you. And I said, Bill, you look like you've done this a long time. He said, that's right. 16 years, 5 days a week, every single time. I said, oh, good. That makes me feel so much more comfortable. He said, it shouldn't. Most accidents happen with experienced divers. Once again. Great! Let me tell you how it breaks down. Confident, cocky, comfortable, dead. I was like, awesome. So, where are you at today? Somewhere in between here. And then Bill takes us to our plane. Now, admittedly, I've only seen one kind of plane, which is those planes you fly on the airport, like a 747 or a 740. 711? Regardless, those planes, right? But what I see is this little tiny plane. Apparently, these are the kind of planes that they call puddle jumpers because that's all they have the capability of doing. So I look at Bill and I go, hold on, we're not going in one of those, are we? And he goes, no way. Ours is much smaller. The little tiny puddle jumper rolls out of the way to reveal our plane. Aww. Barely bigger than a paper airplane, all right? Now, before we get into what I'm sure is a remote-controlled toy, I have to get strapped up to my human backpack, Bill. So Bill comes behind me, and because I'm 3 feet tall, has to bend down to clip every part of my body to him. And obviously, Bill, being the sweetheart that he was trying to boost me up for this ride, right? So he was going, "Hey, are you ready? Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Bill, I'm ready." He's like, "Who's the big man?" I'm like, "I'm the big man." He's like, "Who's the big man?" I'm like, "I'm the big man!" He stands up and my feet do this. Have you ever seen one of those dads walking their dogs in the park with their infant child? I was smaller than that. So then we've got to get into this plane. There was only 2 seats in the whole thing, where the cockpit was sitting and me on Bill's lap. We had to sit on the floor of the plane. This plane is so small, we're leaning against the pilot, who's by the way named Linda, and our feet are touching the back of the plane. So Bill, to get comfortable, decides to lean his foot over the open hole that would be a door. So as he's leaning his foot out the window, I'm leaning my foot out of the window. And as he's finishing his cigarette, I'm finishing his cigarette. Just like, "It's good? It's almost done? No, it's fine? Okay, keep going. You're good. No, we're good." So after Bill finishes his cigarette, I say, "Hey man, does this have a door?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it. I got you covered." And pulls down what I can only describe as a garage door for Barbie Dreamhouse. So we take off, and as I was flying through the air, surprisingly, I was overcome with calm. It was a beautiful ride up. It was extremely peaceful. And I realized at this moment, I didn't have a choice. Live to die over here is jumping no matter what, and I'm attached to him. And at that point, I had to give up the very thing that was keeping me to the ground in the first place, which is control. I was riddled with fear the entire time we were going to the airport because at that point, I had control. I had control opening that door. I had control walking to the plane. I had control until I became mini-me to Bill's Dr. Evil. But surprisingly, once control was out the window, I experienced something I hadn't experienced this whole trip, which was peace. And then the plane started falling apart. We reached 10,000 feet and we are bouncing up and down like crazy. And I'm still on Bill's lap, so I am giving him what is effectively the most aggressive lap dance that he's ever had. Problem. And all of a sudden, he looks and goes, "You feel that? That means it's time to jump!" And I was like, "Oh!" It was at that point that Bill whispers in my ear, "See? That's why we take you up on these things, because once we get to 10,000 feet, you'd rather just jump off." So Bill throws open the door and he says, "Here's how it's gonna work. You are gonna put 1 foot on the wing and then the 2nd foot on the wing. You're gonna stand, cross your arms, and by the time you're wondering if we're doing it right, you're gonna be hurling through the air." And I went, "Let's go, Bill!" So 1 foot, next foot, we're up. And we are falling. Get up, land, he unzips a brand new man, ready to face my 30s with dignity. So I hug Bill, overcome with the adrenaline of experiencing the closest thing you can to actual human flight. So I looked at my watch and realized that that whole process only took 30 minutes. And I've been on the ground for the past 30 years. I would have stayed on that ground and I wouldn't have ever experienced any of that. I've heard it once said that a comfort zone is a really nice place to take a nap, but nothing grows there. So much of the choices that I made or the disappointments that I experienced in my early life was because I was so afraid to get out of that comfort zone. And it took me giving up my control to actually experience something that I had no idea was even possible. So here's my challenge to you. At least once today, when you get that little voice inside of your head that says, don't do that because, I want you to take a note from Bill's playbook, put on that skeleton mask that says live to die, and take a dive for the very first time. I'm Dominic Syracuse, and remember, this machine kills fascists. It's a mixture of joy, fear, happiness, sadness, arousal.